She was only 23, a young mother who just wanted one night to feel free again. On New Year's Eve, 1984, Tonya McKinley laughed with friends inside a crowded Florida bar. By morning, she was gone. For decades, no one knew who took her or why, until a single cigarette, thrown away 35 years later, finally revealed the truth. Tonya McKinley was born on January 25, 1961, in Milton, Florida, a quiet town where families knew each other and life moved slowly. She grew up in a close household, sharing a strong bond with her older sister. The two spent much of their childhood outdoors, skating, bowling, and enjoying simple routines. Tonya's friends remembered her as cheerful, dependable, and full of energy. After high school, she wanted a career that offered stability. Drawn to the medical field but unable to pursue a full degree, she trained to become a medical transcriptionist, work that required specialized courses and provided steady income. To follow this path, she moved 25 miles west to Pensacola, Florida. Her cousin Vanita moved with her, and the two shared an apartment while studying and working. In Pensacola, Tonya met Tim, and their friendship soon became serious. In 1983, she gave birth to their son, Timothy. Family members recalled her joy at becoming a mother, but the relationship soon suffered from financial stress and frequent arguments. By late 1984, they separated, and Tonya, only 23, temporarily moved in with Vanita, who was married with 2 children. Tonya hoped to find her own place and rebuild her independence. On December 31, 1984, Tonya joined Vanita and her husband to celebrate New Year's Eve at a local bar. Their children were left at a late-night daycare closing at 1 a.m. The night was lively, filled with familiar faces and music. When midnight arrived, they welcomed 1985 together. Soon after, Vanita and her husband left to collect their children. Tonya chose to stay longer and asked Vanita to pick up Timothy as well, assuring her she'd find a ride home with friends from the bar. It was the last time anyone saw her alive. Around 3 a.m. on January 1st, 1985, a woman and her daughter driving to an emergency veterinary clinic noticed something along a dark roadside. At first, the daughter thought it was a mannequin, but when they looked closer, they realized it was a human body. They returned home and called police. Officers arrived to find the body of a young woman lying in an empty lot near the road. Her tights were pulled down, her dress lifted, and her shoes missing. Nearby lay a blue towel stained with what appeared to be blood. A purse found close by contained an ID card and the name Tonya McKinley. The ground showed drag marks, suggesting the body had been moved after death. There was almost no blood at the scene, supporting the theory she had been killed elsewhere. An autopsy confirmed that Tonya had suffered a blow to the head from a heavy object and had been strangled. She had also been sexually assaulted. Forensic technicians recovered strands of human hair, pubic hair, and traces of dog fur from her body and the towel. The presence of animal hair suggested the killer might own or have been around a dog. At that time, DNA testing was not yet standard. Analysts could determine only that the semen sample came from someone with type B blood. It was a clue, but not an identity. When Vanita awoke later that morning and found Tonya still gone, she assumed her cousin had stayed with friends. A few hours later, police arrived with the news of her death. The shock spread quickly through Pensacola. Tonya was 23 years old. Her 18-month-old son had lost his mother. Detectives secured the evidence, confirmed the bar as the last place she was seen, and began compiling a list of possible suspects. Investigators first looked at Tim, her former boyfriend and the child's father. Family members described their arguments and his difficulty accepting the breakup. Detectives considered the possibility that he had followed her to the bar that night. Tim cooperated fully, denied involvement, and provided hair samples for comparison. Microscopic analysis showed they did not match the hairs from the crime scene, and with no other evidence he was ruled out. Detectives then interviewed everyone who had been at the bar. Witnesses said the night passed without conflict. Tonya had danced and talked with friends and did not seem upset. Among those questioned was Kurt, the bartender who had briefly dated her. He confirmed seeing Tonya, but said he left after his shift to attend another party. Friends verified that he arrived at the party later than expected, leaving an unexplained gap of time. A polygraph test gave inconclusive results, but his blood type did not match the type B sample from the crime scene. Lacking physical evidence, police dismissed him as a suspect. Officers canvassed the area around the lot where the body was found. One family reported driving past around 2 a.m. and seeing nothing unusual, suggesting the body had been left there between 2 and 3 a.m. Despite dozens of interviews and collected leads, investigators reached a standstill. They believed the killer likely lived nearby or knew the area well, as the lot was hidden from main roads. By the end of 1985, the case had gone cold. Tonya's son grew up without answers. To protect him, relatives told him that his mother had died in a car accident. The story remained unchanged throughout his childhood. When he turned 14, curiosity led him to search his father's closet for Christmas presents. There, he found a sealed envelope addressed to television host Montel Williams. Inside was a letter from his father describing Tonya's unsolved murder and pleading for public attention. Reading it, Timothy learned the truth for the first time. His mother had been murdered, not killed in an accident. Meanwhile, the Pensacola Police Department kept the case open. Each new generation of detectives reviewed it when technology improved, but for years there were no results. The evidence remained sealed and protected, waiting for a method that could finally identify the killer. Officers retired, and new ones took their place, passing along the same commitment not to let the case be forgotten. For Tonya's family, hope rose and faded with each new review. Her parents aged without justice. Her sister preserved memories of their youth, and her son lived with questions that science might one day answer. By the early 2000s, advances in forensic technology gave investigators new possibilities. The original evidence, particularly the blue towel, was retested using modern DNA analysis. The results confirmed that the blood on the towel belonged to an unknown male, separate from Tonya. A full DNA profile was created and uploaded to the FBI's database, but no match appeared. The profile remained unmatched for years. In 2015, investigators turned to a newer technique, genetic genealogy. This process compared the unknown DNA not only against criminal databases, but also against public genealogy data used by people exploring family ancestry. Detectives partnered with Parabon Nanolabs, specialists in the field. Their analysts searched for partial matches indicating distant relatives, then built extended family trees to narrow the possibilities. The process took months of detailed work. Step by step, the pool of potential relatives grew smaller until one family line drew attention. Within that family, a man fit the profile, old enough in 1985 to have committed the crime, living in Pensacola at the time, and with a minor criminal history that included violence. His name was Daniel Wells. Police records showed that Wells had been arrested in the late 1980s for assault and later for indecent exposure. In 2020, he was living in Pensacola and working as a carpenter. To confirm their theory, detectives needed his DNA. They began discreet surveillance, following him until he discarded something that could yield a sample. One afternoon, Wells threw a cigarette butt from his car window near his workplace. Investigators retrieved it and sent it for testing. Laboratory analysis produced a conclusive match. The DNA from the cigarette was identical to the male DNA found on Tonya McKinley's body and on the blue towel in 1985. After 35 years, science had provided the answer that every investigator and family member had waited for. On March 2020, Pensacola police arrested 57-year-old Daniel Wells and charged him with murder and sexual battery. During questioning, he initially denied knowing Tonya. Detectives presented the DNA results. The match left no room for doubt. Confronted with the evidence, he changed his story. He admitted meeting Tonya at the bar on New Year's Eve 1984 and offering her a ride home. He claimed they went to his house, drank, and had consensual sex before arguing. He said he struck her with a wooden cutting board and strangled her. Police confirmed publicly that the DNA from Wells matched the killer's profile. The arrest ended one of Pensacola's longest unsolved murder cases. Captain Chuck Mallett of the Pensacola Police Department said the investigation had spanned 3 generations of detectives. He noted that although the trail had gone cold many times, the department never gave up. The news reached Tonya's family quickly. Her son, now in his mid-30s, expressed both relief and sorrow. He said nothing could undo what happened, but knowing the truth finally brought peace. He reflected that Wells had lived freely for 35 years, raising a family and enjoying a life his mother never could. Daniel Wells was booked into the Escambia County Jail and held without bond. Court records confirmed charges of first-degree murder and sexual battery. His past arrests, including those for assault and indecent exposure, showed a consistent pattern of aggression. After the arrest, the Pensacola Police Department issued a formal statement acknowledging the long pursuit of justice. Despite having a good bit of physical evidence and dozens of interviews, over time the trail went cold, it said. Every couple of years, a new lead would appear, and we would drop everything to run it down. In the meantime, a baby boy grew up without a mother, parents buried their daughter without knowing justice, and a killer walked free. 3.5 decades after Tonya McKinley's murder, her case was finally closed. The persistence of investigators, the evolution of forensic science, and the power of DNA had brought truth where silence once stood.